Today we are doing something a little bit different. Every season of Survivor is a story, but sometimes a story can extend across multiple seasons, and that is the case with Danni Boatwright, as she won season 11 and nicknamed herself the Stealth Bomber. She didn't fly under the radar, but she beat it. When asked to play again, she would always say, if and when there's an all-winner season, then give me a call. That time finally came, and she answered the call. So what happens when you win and then don't play again for 29 seasons? You get a lot of fan hype and people predicting she'll once again beat the radar. Let's see if this is indeed correct. Now, before we start, I do want to thank you for watching what I make and ultimately supporting what I do here with liking, commenting, and sharing. It really helps a lot. For only a few bucks a month on Patreon, you can pick what videos I make, watch all of this channel's content early, chat with other fans of the show, and even get exclusive videos every month. With that, let's jump into the full story of Danni Boatwright.
39 days, 18 people, 1 survivor.
Danni Boatwright, a 29-year-old sports radio host from Kansas City, Missouri, was a castaway and the eventual winner of Survivor Guatemala. By the end of the game, she overcame great odds to pull off a surprise win that almost no one saw coming. And at the reunion of the season, she described how she did this as being a stealth bomber who wasn't under the radar, but she beat the radar.
I kind of like to think of myself as like a stealth bomber. You know, I never flew under the radar. I think they just beat the radar. Like they didn't know I was coming until after I dropped the bombs on them.
What does this mean and how does it work? Let's find out. Survivor Guatemala begins in the Maya ruins in a fairly quick fashion by introducing us to the 16 castaways separated onto their 2 respective tribes, Yasha and Nakum. Jeff then talks to the new castaways before saying, I bet you all didn't see this coming, but guess what? We have a surprise in store for you. That's right, Bobby, John, and Stephanie from Survivor Palau the very last season are making a comeback.
Each tribe will have one other tool to aid you in this game. Come on out. With Bobby John, a strong competitor at challenges, and in day-to-day camp living, arguably the hardest working survivor ever.
Danni is on Nakum and she is very easy to identify with her large Kansas City Chiefs hat on, and she is joined by Bobby John. Now her first impression of him is kind, and dare I say, she might even have a thing for him.
A man is just stronger than a woman is, and it makes it, you know, easy on the eyes around the tribe, so that's always plus.
Hello, let's see if this goes anywhere since they are both not married after all. Jeff then says, hey guys, I have a fun challenge up my sleeve. Both tribes are going to hike 11 miles through the Guatemalan jungle, and whichever tribe wins gets the better camp. Okay, have fun. If that sounds insane to do to a bunch of first-time players, you are correct. As the hike progresses, the girls are doing just fine, but the men are struggling. A thorny tree falls on one of the guys while Bobby John is not drinking enough water and his body starts freezing up on him. It ain't great. Anyways, the next day, the hike is finally completed, and who wins the better camp?
Welcome, Nakum. Congratulations. Nicely done, guys.
A win is a win, but at what cost? We see Margaret tending to the men who are all down on the ground suffering, aside from Brandon, who seems to be doing okay.
The girls are holding up remarkably well, but we didn't expect the guys to go down so quickly. Don't get up, lay down, stay down.
It isn't looking good right now, but no time to dwell on that as it is time for the very first immunity challenge. That's right, we're just rushing along here, and it is insanely physical, and in case the men aren't in bad enough shape as it is, Jim tears his bicep trying to lift the boat. Great. So who wins immunity? It is now time to vote someone out, but it's fairly obvious that the guy with the torn bicep is on his way out the door. At Tribal Council, Bobby John is saying it's great to be back playing Survivor, and not many people get a second shot at winning the $1 million. But the fun part of this, just watch.
I mean, not many people get 2 chances to win $1 million.
That's a big editing hint if I've ever seen one, with a musical cue. Anyways, Jim is voted out in an 8-1 vote.
Jim, tribe spoken. Time for you to go.
That is it for the premiere episode of Survivor Guatemala, and we have to ask ourselves, Who is Danni Boatwright? If we didn't know she was the eventual winner of the season, nothing indicates to us she is an important figure aside from the blink and you miss it moment at Tribal Council. She isn't sick like the men, and she seems to be in pretty good shape, so no one should be targeting her as a weak link on the tribe, which is good for her pre-merge prospects. Other than that, let's see if her story gets expanded upon and observe what tricks she may have up her sleeve to pull off this victory. Episode 2 begins with a Nakum reward win, but more importantly, we learn something about Danni that we didn't know. She tells us about how in Kansas City, she is a sports radio host. Now, we did know that part. And she recognizes someone from the Yasha tribe. That we did not know. One, Mr. Gary Hogaboom. He is a former NFL quarterback, and over on Yasha, she doesn't know this, but we do. He has been pretending to be Gary Hawkins, a landscaper, and definitely not a quarterback. So Danni is the only one who knows his true identity.
I work in sports radio back in Kansas City, and Gary used to be a professional football player. Quarterbacks, though, aren't usually as athletic as the rest of the football players, but he's been holding his own, so we'll see what happens.
Now, Nakum does go on to win immunity, which is great, but what is even crazier is that somehow while mud wrestling with Brian on Yasha, Danni tells him about Gary and who he really is. While Brian asks Gary about this back at camp, Gary just denies. More importantly though, Gary is now annoyed at Danni and he has never even met her.
It was brought up by Danni from Nakum that I played in the NFL at quarterback. And she told Brian that as they were wrestling in the mud. What the heck she was doing telling him that while she was wrestling in the mud, I don't know. I'm just going to deny and see how it goes. I'll play it by ear.
Episode 3 sees Nakum winning reward yet again, and it seems like everyone is at full health, which is great. At camp, neither tribe can go swimming in the lake due to the vast number of crocodiles roaming around, and heck, we see quite a few ourselves this season, so it's not like they're just a myth. Despite this, some of Nakum are tired of the heat and take a chance on taking a dip in the lake, and it's risky.
I'm not getting in there. I've worked with alligators. They behave the way crocs do, and I know they're out there even though we can't see them. There's probably hundreds in this lake, if not more.
Nakum gets tree mail for their next immunity challenge, but with it comes paint to get the tribe members looking cool before the challenge. Danni is easily the most excited about this as she reveals a bit more about herself.
I'm gonna do football lines, yeah. It's fun because before I go to Chiefs football games, we always paint ourselves up, so it's right up my alley.
I got to say, as a guy, Danni seems like someone who would fit right in with a group of men, no problem, which has to be helping her with the guys on her own tribe. Now, the immunity challenge is essentially a form of basketball, but while running on nets. Danni is pretty much a dominating force for Nakum, as every time she goes out to play, she scores a point. It's like clockwork. It may help that she towers over most women at 5 feet 10 inches, whereas someone like Stephanie is only 5 feet 4 inches, but hey, it works. She scores 3 goals, including...
She's got a height advantage. Danni scores for the win. Nakum wins immunity.
Episode 4 starts off kind of strange as both tribes go on to the reward challenge, only to find out that there is no challenge. It's just reward, but it's a reward that they get to vote who gets what. Like Gary and Bobby John getting showers, or a few people even getting a picnic lunch. Danni is voted as most needing nourishment and she is given an apple, but it is all a hoax as it turns out this is just an elaborate scheme to swap tribes in a very confusing fashion. But the long story made short is that Danni is now on Yasha and she is still with Bobby John, Blake, and Brandon, and they hold a 4-3 advantage at their new tribe.
Danni reveals blue. You're now a member of Yasha.
In an awkward yet funny moment, Gary is a part of the tribe Danni has swapped to, and they have this kind of hard to watch exchange where she says she thought he played at Central Michigan back in the day, and Gary, who is a terrible liar, says, no, I didn't play football there. I mean, I went to college there, but I didn't play football there, and Danni's just confused.
Who do you think I was?
Oh, I thought you played at Central Michigan.
No, I went to Central Michigan, but I didn't play it. I'm totally going to deny that I'm Gary Hogaboom. That's my cover. So I'm keeping it.
I thought Gary was going to die when he looked at me because I'd called him out right away on the whole quarterback thing. I don't know, maybe he just doesn't want anybody to know he was a former professional quarterback because, you know, you think right away he doesn't need the money.
At the immunity challenge, once again, Danni plays a pivotal role as they win and keep themselves safe for one more episode.
Danni very close.
Keep on popping it, Brandon.
Brandon connects for Yasha. Yasha wins immunity.
Episode 5 sees a side of Danni we didn't know about. Turns out she's a pretty devout Christian and apparently leads her tribe in prayer all the time. Brian finds this annoying, but he is the only one, and he's the oddball because everyone else is on board with what she's doing.
Dear Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for every day out here, Lord.
Yasha goes on to win reward again, except this time they get a pool at their camp that keeps them safe from crocodiles, which is awesome. But the running gag this episode is how Blake will not stop talking and telling stories about his life that pretty much everyone there finds annoying, and sometimes it really is inappropriate based on who he is talking to. Danni is not a fan.
My girlfriend, she's got double D. She's got big boobs.
Really?
But then she got the pill.
Yeah.
And they get bigger.
Everybody's getting a little fed up with him. And I like the guy. He's a good guy. He's just young, and it's just typical frat boy stuff. And I don't like that frat boy stuff at all.
Unfortunately, Yasha loses immunity, so it's time. Do the 4 old Nakum stick together, or is this a new tribe united, making decisions as a tribe? Gary and Amy approach Danni about the possibility of voting off Blake, and Danni's like, yeah, that actually sounds good to me. You don't have to do too much convincing. He's pretty annoying. She talks to Brandon, who says he won't do it, and frankly, this is a little risky if tribal lines do hold. We then find out that not only will Brandon not vote for Blake, but Bobby John says he won't do it either. So now Danni knows that she is the swing vote on this decision tonight. Vote out Blake or vote out Brian. Which one will she do?
Brandon and Bobby John said they wouldn't vote for him. It kind of comes down to my vote. And I hate being the swing vote. I mean, it's just, that's a part of the game I just don't like. It's because it's going to hurt people's feelings, but it has to happen. Unfortunately, it's just the way it goes sometimes.
At Tribal Council, it happens. Blake is voted out in a 5-2 vote because Bobby John actually flips with Danni.
Blake, the tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
Episode 6 is quiet for Danni as Jeff drops the bomb that both tribes are going to Tribal Council, and while Yasha does lose reward, it's not Danni's fault as her and Amy score every single point for the tribe. Viewing Brian as the weak link, he is voted out in a 5-1 vote.
Brian, the tribe has spoken. Good luck, guys. Time for you to go.
Episode 7 begins with a reward win by Yasha, and in an unprecedented move in Survivor that has not happened up to this point, and spoiler warning, still hasn't happened to this day, Danni invite Nakum over to their pool to celebrate Danni's birthday. That's right, 2 tribes just get to hang out pre-merge. Wow, it's a great move though, as most of Nakum loves this, and Danni gives them leftover chocolate from the reward that Yasha won. Danni's just kind of like a cool chick to be around.
Today happens to be my birthday, so we thought we'd go over and invite Nakum over for a little pool party. And we really just wanted to have a party. I mean, we've been out for 17 days now, and I'm always big on birthday parties, so we had to do something.
Yasha goes on to lose immunity, and back at camp the question is, will there be a merge, and if there isn't, who is the weakest? The answer seems to be obviously Amy, since she has been suffering from an ankle injury since the basketball game they played and it hasn't got better. Danni likes Amy though, and Amy says, hey, if there's a merge, here's what I can give to you guys. I can't outplay anyone, but I can outwit everyone, which is a terrible pitch on her part, and who wants to compete against that if it is true? The bigger point here is the consideration of voting out Bobby John instead, since Danni doesn't really think it's fair that him and Stephanie got a second shot against a bunch of newbie players.
I would hate to vote Bobby John out. This is the last time he didn't get to go to the merge, you know? But that's like with anybody, nobody's had the chance to, you know? I thought that wasn't fair at all for both of them to come back because it's such a big advantage for the 2 of them.
She is the first person all season to have mentioned this on the show, though I am sure the discussion has happened, we just haven't seen it. Danni then talks to Brandon about what to do, and she brings up the returning player conundrum again.
The other thing too, Bobby John and Stephanie have had a chance to play this game before, and none of us have.
Now, something you could easily not notice that we see Danni doing consistently, and the show is making a point of showing us, is how whenever she needs to make a decision, it is not a solo effort. She always confers with everyone in her alliance. She never goes rogue. It's a good look to remain trustworthy. At Tribal Council, Amy is voted out in a 4-1 vote.
Amy, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
But surprise, surprise, before Jeff says, go on back to camp, he drops a bomb on them all.
The 4 of you will not go back to your camp. You and Nakum are no longer 2 tribes. You're going to merge into one new tribe.
We just went to Tribal Council, and then Jeff turns to us and says, here's your new buffs. You're not going back to your camp. You're heading over to Nakum for a merge.
Unfortunately for Danni, this merge has her and her alliance down in the numbers 6-4. Her, Gary, Brandon, and Bobby John have an uphill battle. Before going to the other tribe and telling them they have merged, they all make a pact to be hard workers and servants to the old Nakum to get in their good graces.
Go there and don't act like stupid for a while. Just be like, we're glad to be here. We're serving. We're gonna serve them. Yeah, we're gonna work hard for them.
They do surprise them with the merge, and the next day they are not feeling the love as the old Nakum is, not really doing anything to welcome them. It's hard to not feel bad for Danni here.
Nakum, like when we came over, I didn't think they were that warm and friendly. I feel like kind of like we're slaves because you feel like an outsider.
Then, in a surprising twist that will change Survivor forever, the hidden immunity idol is introduced as a strategic game piece that can be played before the votes are cast to keep you safe at Tribal Council. It's kind of like winning individual immunity, except you just gotta find it out in the forest. This is a complete game changer.
If you're feeling bored around camp or could use some peace of mind in this game, there's a small individual immunity idol hidden in the woods. This is in addition to any individual immunity you win at challenges. It is about 6 inches tall and is made of stone.
What?
Everyone scrambles like madmen to find this thing, and it's a pretty crazy search for everyone, but from what we can see, no one has any luck actually getting it. The next day, the merged tribe has still not picked a name, and Danni actually decides on what they will be called from here on out.
Good morning, everyone. So, have we thought of a name? Shakum.
I like that.
That sounds catchy. Boom, shakum. Hey!
Something you're not seeing in this video, but if you have watched Stephanie's epic story video for the season, or you've seen the season, is that the old Nakum complains a lot. Namely Stephanie, who comes across as very entitled. Danni and the rest of the old Yasha camp are tired of hearing it.
Yeah. Stephanie bitches a lot, man.
All she does is complain so much. All they do is complain.
It was just so negative here at camp. I mean, just complaining about not having food or not having anything to do.
While out on the boat, the Stephanie Six decide that they will be voting off Brandon, then Bobby John, then Danni in that order. Now Gary's name isn't mentioned here, so it isn't clear where he stands in the pecking order, but seems like Danni may have a few episodes to work some magic and get in good with someone. In a slightly amusing moment, the next immunity challenge has to do with balancing pots on your head, and Danni says this is not good for her, and it's proven at the immunity challenge.
I have a dome-shaped head, so I'm SOL.
Danni makes the slightest move. Danni's out.
Since the merge, Jamie has been mouthing off a lot, namely to Bobby John since they seem to be rivals, but Jamie's a little bit off kilter. Back at camp, everyone is tired of this though, and Danni takes the opportunity to help him dig that hole and further the narrative that Jamie is unworthy to be there.
It wasn't like we were like, you're not welcome here, good luck.
I felt so bad.
Honestly, it's just like what Gary said. It's Jamie and he's been there, you know, and
at Tribal Council, Brandon is voted out in a 6-4 vote.
Brandon, tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 9 sees Danni, Bobby John, and Gary looking more and more for that idol. Down 6-3 in the large alliance, seemingly unwilling to change anything up yet, the idol seems to be the only guaranteed safety available.
I'm gonna eat this, take a drink of water, and go look for that idol. It's gotta be here somewhere. Our ass depends on it. It's hopeless. We can't find it anywhere. Hopefully we'll get some more clues to where it might be. But I'm just praying, so maybe the Lord will lead me to it.
Judd wins the reward challenge, and with that comes a second clue to the idol just for himself. He does share it with Stephanie, which essentially says that the idol is not on the ground. So for some odd reason, Judd feels compelled to tell everyone else what the clue says.
Tree mail I got in my pocket, man. That thing is definitely by far on the ground, so to speak.
I don't know why he felt compelled to lie to everyone or even tell them in the first place when no one asked, but there we go. Gary has a conversation with Jamie where Jamie mishears what Gary says and convinces his alliance to make Gary the next target instead of Bobby John. We can now confirm that Danni is the low man on the target list, which is pretty good.
We've got a great plan in place. We're going to get rid of Gary first.
I can guarantee you one thing, okay? It's one of us three.
At Tribal Council, Gary is going to be voted out, and that is until...
If anybody has found the immunity idol and wants to use it tonight, now's the time to bring it up.
Oh my God, Gary.
Oh man, good job, Gary.
I knew it.
He plays the idol, and Bobby John is instead voted out in a 4-2-1 vote. Danni stayed true to Bobby John.
Bobby John, job spoken.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. Hang in there.
Episode 10 sees Danni and her stacked team winning reward where they get a helicopter ride and a night at a mansion. Danni says this is the first time she's ever been in a helicopter, and at the mansion, her and Stephanie are showering off from the mud from the challenge, and
Two hot girls in the shower together.
Danni and I are like really similar. She's a cool chick.
Danni tells us that she just loves to eat, but Stephanie loves to eat even more than she does. Now, this is really proven if you've watched Palau and now Guatemala, because Steph talks about food a lot. Anyways, Danni is feeling a lot closer to Stephanie than ever before.
I love to eat, but Stephanie eats even more than I do. I haven't had a chance to get to know her, and I think the reward helps a lot.
The next morning, they are all gifted with some videotapes from home. Danni is kind of a dork in a fun way, as she is like whatevs to seeing her family, but is really excited to see her dogs.
My family I knew would be fine. I just wanted to see my dogs and make sure they were okay, and they look like they've been well fed, so.
Back at camp, Jamie's getting more and more on everyone's nerves, and this is only good news for Danni and Gary, as Stephanie 6 say, we can afford it, let's vote out Jamie.
I'm in on that, but Gary is a smooth operator.
At Tribal Council, Jamie is blindsided in a 6-2 vote, but interestingly enough, the large alliance left Judd out of the loop on this decision.
Job spoken.
Blindsided. Nice! Now that's how you vote somebody out.
Episode 11 has Rafe observing the slow pull that Danni and Gary seem to have successfully pulled off with Lydia. He thinks she is now on their side, and frankly, why wouldn't Lydia flip when she feels used and not valued? That's what she says. We even see Stephanie get mad at her and kick her out later in this episode. Success for Danni.
How she made it to day 29 is beyond me. Because she's nice and smiles. Today she wasn't. Today she's completely out of our alliance.
I thought to myself, I was loyal to you. I was right there with everything that you wanted me to do. And now all of a sudden, you guys don't need me anymore. So I think I'm screwed.
At the reward challenge, Stephanie is knocked out first and is super salty about this because everyone thinks she eats way too much. So back at camp, Stephanie tries to remedy this problem by blowing up on everyone and arguing her way into convincing them that she doesn't eat too much. They're just jealous. This is intercut with her eating, and Gary saying she hasn't lost any weight. And let's just keep this in mind for later, as she is just burning bridges here.
Because everybody's talking Stephanie's eating so much. I'm so upset that Stephanie's winning all these rewards, and I don't want to hear any more about it.
Steph eats a stinking ton. I don't think she's lost weight. She eats so much corn and nuts. It's amazing.
Danni is still trying to figure out how to topple the large alliance, because even with Lydia now, she is still down 4-3. Stephanie, Rafe, Judd, and Cindy hold the numbers advantage. What is most interesting is how the scene ends with Danni looking up to Stephanie perched on the ruins. A real David versus Goliath visual moment.
Stephanie's gonna run in the show right now.
I've got to look at who's in control of the game and play up to it. You just have to keep trying until you find something that works.
At Tribal Council, the inevitable happens as Gary is voted out 6-1.
Gary, job spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 12 is crunch time. Danni is the last remaining Yasha member and the next player on the chopping block. She is truly the underdog here.
Well, last night at Tribal Council, Gary got voted out, and now that there's 6 of us left, about ready to have my head chopped off.
The reward challenge this episode is actually the Survivor auction, which introduces another brand new twist to the show that we have not seen before: advantages to a challenge that you can buy. So who wins this advantage?
Sold for $200 to Danni. It needs to remain sealed. We'll deal with it when you get to the next challenge.
Okay.
Back at camp, Danni gets some alone time with Rafe, and they devise a plan to make Judd look untrustworthy to his best friend and biggest ally in the game, Stephanie. They want her support when eliminating him, which is great news for Danni not to be Rafe's target, but the plan itself is kind of evil.
The only person I really feel like I can't trust now is Rafe. I think he knows that I'm important to have around for him.
We just need to catch Judd with some kind of lie. So that we can show Steph that that's, because right now she really trusts him.
Lydia gets in on this plan with Danni and Rafe, and she talks to Judd, who in essence says a bunch of vague things and really nothing of substance, but Danni is there to hear it all, and it's just enough for her, who doesn't really care what he says because she just needs some ammo, and she now has it.
It's funny, the longer you stick around, the more problems you can cause, more doors will open, so it seems like they have a little bit of a crack.
At the immunity challenge, Danni wins due to her smarts and the advantage she purchased. What a great buy for only $200.
Danni wins immunity. Well played. Nothing more valuable than this right now.
Oh, I love this thing.
Well played.
Back at camp, Danni goes full villain along with Rafe to bamboozle Stephanie into distrusting Judd. And Stephanie, hearing these lies from Danni, is like, whoa, maybe we should vote out Judd, falling right into the trap that was set up for her.
What did Judd say to you? Looks like you don't think I don't know who's in control.
And the key is, to eliminate the strongest people.
I'd like to believe Judd, and I believe Judd for the most part, but he's already made it clear that he's playing this game and he'll do anything to win. And he's already been caught in quite a few lies. And Danni really hasn't lied at all.
At Tribal Council, Judd is voted out 4-2, and for some reason, Cindy is left out of the loop on this. All good news for Danni, though.
Judd, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 13 starts off with Cindy going, hey, I feel screwed over, because she should. She should feel screwed over because she is being screwed over. And Danni is being ever so gleeful that the big alliance is finally falling apart.
Judd got voted out tonight, completely blindsided. Stephanie and Rafe broke that alliance. I've been praying for a crack in that alliance.
The next moment is kind of dumb, but I love me some dumb moments, as everyone is just sitting around trying to go cross-eyed.
To make themselves cross-eyed.
Ooh, that's very disturbing.
Cindy wins the reward challenge and is offered by Jeff to give everyone else a car if only she gives up hers. Cindy says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep the car. Everyone else doesn't get one. She does get an overnight reward trip too, which she takes Stephanie on with her. While on that reward, Stephanie says, we need to get Danni out next because it would really suck if she made it further in this game than we did.
I just been thinking, I really like Danni, but I really don't want to chance it
and lose to her.
Right. If she went further than me, that would suck.
The next moment is game-changing for Danni, as we have now seen her develop such a wonderful relationship with Rafe that he promises her Final 3, which is awesome, but she one-ups him and says, hey, I'll promise you Final 2 if I win Final Immunity. Great.
And my promise to you is the Final 3. Me too. Absolutely, and I won't vote for you this time or next time, no matter what.
If I got to Final 3 and I know I wouldn't win against you, I still would take you with me. And I promise you that. If I somehow win immunity out or something happens, I will.
Because of this, Rafe doesn't want to target Danni or Stephanie, and Lydia is pretty much a non-threat, so Cindy becomes target number 1, and he convinces Stephanie that this is best for both of their games, and it is not. The Final 3 deal seems to be real.
I think we have a way better shot at beating Danni in the Final 3 than Cindy.
You do?
For sure.
At Tribal Council, Danni talks about how she just feels lucky to be there since the odds have been overwhelmingly against her since the merge. She's really selling herself here as an underdog to the jury before Final Tribal so it can sit in their brains and grow.
Number-wise, I've always been the odd man out, so I always feel worried. I'm so lucky to be here. To be in the Final 5.
Rafe stays true to the deal he made with Stephanie, and Cindy is indeed voted out in a 4-1 vote.
Cindy, the tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
It is finale time. Stephanie versus Rafe versus Lydia versus Danni. Only one will prevail and win the title of Sole Survivor. This seems like a time to celebrate, but if anything, Danni is worried that like the college basketball team she roots for, she will blow it in the Final 4.
This morning around camp, I was trying to be relaxed, but I was a total wreck. I'm a huge Kansas Jayhawk basketball fan, and in the last 4 years, we've gone to the Final 4 twice, haven't brought back the championship, so I feel like all this pressure on me that I have to go back home, and bring home a championship.
The debate rages on between Stephanie and Rafe. Stephanie obviously wants Danni out, as that makes the most sense strategically, but Rafe keeps saying no, and Stephanie has no idea about this Final 3 deal. It's a debate that just keeps raging on and on.
From a strategic standpoint, if we wanted to guarantee both of ourselves a Final 2 spot, most likely we should take Lydia.
As possible, it's a better strategic decision, but I promised Danni that I was going to go to Final 3 with her.
Now Danni, despite what happened at the last Tribal, doesn't feel great about Rafe keeping his word. This is Survivor after all. Now, instead of a final four feast, they get to witness some local minds do a sacrifice that involves a chicken, honey, and some other food items, but none of it can be eaten. That's what the local minds said. So of course, the next day, Danni, Stephanie, and Lydia say, screw that, we're eating this chicken. And what happens next?
Right after we ate that chicken, this huge storm moves in. Lots of lightning. Actually, the biggest storm I think we've had since we've been here. And we start talking about, oh no, maybe there is something to this.
At Tribal Council, Jeff is surprised that they ate that sacrificed chicken and straight up says they did not respect the ceremony at all.
You know that chicken that they gave to the temple and to the gods? Well,
You ate the chicken.
we ate the chicken.
You really don't respect the ceremony.
I actually didn't eat the chicken.
Danny, did you eat it?
Yes.
Steph, you ate it.
Before voting, Danni pumps up Lydia and says if Lydia makes final Tribal Council, she wins. None of us here can beat her. No one else stands a chance. This is important, so keep it in mind for later.
She ends up into that final two. Lydia's your clear winner because everybody loves Lydia.
While the jury shakes their head at the stupidity of Rafe and Stephanie, and I am as well, Lydia is voted out in a 3-1 vote.
Lydia, the tribe has spoken.
At the final immunity challenge, it's a real mess. The idea is that while hanging onto these two ropes, you have to balance on this wobbly platform. At a certain point in time, Jeff will say, let go of one of the ropes, and then you gotta do the same thing but with only one rope. And then if two people are still on the platforms, Jeff will say, let go of the other rope. And that's how it's designed to be. You hit the ground, you're out. The rules really are, just as long as your hands nor feet touch the side beams or the ground, then you're good. So the moment everyone is forced to drop one of the ropes, they end up leaning against the beams in a way the challenge was not designed. So who is out of the challenge first?
Right. Your hand touched the pole. You're out.
With only Danni and Stephanie left, you may recall how earlier I said Danni dominated that basketball challenge due to her being 6 inches taller than Stephanie. Once again, that difference matters here as Danni has no issue leaning against the beam while Stephanie keeps dropping lower and lower until...
I can't move.
Steph is out. Danni has won final immunity.
I want to release you from any promise you made to me about who you take to the final two. And take whoever you want tonight.
Immunity? You are safe tonight at Tribal Council.
Danni wins final immunity, and Rafe releases her from having to take him to the final two. She has got a 2-for-1 deal on this challenge. She says she is blown away she made the final two considering what it took for her to get here and completely avoiding that begonging. She also says Rafe done screwed up by releasing her because now she has options.
I'm shocked that I'm in the final two. It's just overwhelming to think about having the numbers against me. And here I am, and I'm just blown away about it. Originally, I was set on taking Rafe because I gave you my word, but then Rafe told me, he goes, I will release you from any promises or bonds.
At Tribal Council, Danni hasn't voted yet, but we 100% know where this train is headed. Just listen to what she says.
She made a lot of people mad at her in the game and would be the easier choice if you wanted a better chance at winning the million.
Of course, Rafe is voted out, and considering how much Stephanie has burnt bridges and screwed people over, this is the right choice.
Rafe, the tribe has spoken.
Back at camp, Danni thinks it's funny that 2 jock females outlasted all these strong guys this season.
It's just so funny that we ended up together at the end, the 2 jocks, and to outlast all the boys, it's kind of fun. 2 tough girls.
And in one last hurrah before final Tribal Council, Danni gives us an inspirational quote and what her strategy is going to be into the last portion of this game.
No matter what situation in life you're in, you may be down, but you're never out. That is a huge lesson I've learned here. For the jury tonight, I plan on just being myself. I try to be a nice person, the all-American girl next door. So it just kind of depends on the questions they ask and then how, I need to react to it.
Here we go. final tribal council. Will the jury respect Stephanie's ruthless game of backstabbing and cutting throats, or will they be swayed by Danni's come-from-behind underdog story? Let's find out. Danni's opening speech is fairly solid as she tells the tale of the odds she overcame to get here and how she was overlooked despite being very fit, briefly mentions the hardships she has gone through in the past, and even takes the chance to invite the jury to come out to Kansas City for a barbecue and sports when this whole game is over.
I just feel honored to be in this position because making that merge from Yasha over to Nakum, being in that numbers game, I thought there was no chance in heck that I would ever be sitting in this position. I just hope at the end of all this that we'll be able to have you guys come to Kansas City and eat some good barbecue and go to a ball game.
Now Danni has 2 locked votes coming into this tribal, whereas Stephanie has 1. Danni has Bobby John and Gary, so she only needs 2 more votes to win this game. Bobby John is the first juror, and he asks if she was proud of how she played this game, and she says yes, and briefly mentions the odds she overcame again, and compliments Bobby John about how it was fun to be with him and Yasha.
The only thing I wish that could happen differently is that we would have won a few more of those immunity challenges, so when we merged over, we would have had our group together because we had so much fun.
Gary is the second juror, and he asks each of them why he shouldn't vote for them. Danni's answer here kind of sucks, as she says, well, he shouldn't vote for her because she's selfishly aligned with Rafe. That's very lame, but it doesn't matter because she already has Gary's vote.
I was aligning myself with Rafe. That was maybe the wrong thing to do, so I made a selfish move. That is the main reason, and I'm sorry for that.
Jamie is the third juror, and he asks what Danni would have done had she entered the merge with numbers. Danni says she would have stuck with her Yasha tribe, and that's all we hear. Okay then. Lydia is fourth, and honestly, Danni is really respectful to Lydia, and that's what matters here because Lydia feels burned by Stephanie and gives Stephanie a chance to apologize, and Stephanie basically says, Lydia, you're not the final 2 because I think you suck and you've been really easy to beat. And you may recall earlier how Danni was pumping Lydia up, which is the opposite of what Stephanie's doing here.
If I took you to the final, I would probably have a better shot at beating you than Danni, but then what does that say for me, who's super competitive and super athletic? And I'm going to take Lydia because I think I can beat her. I went up against the best, and I'd like to beat the best, and that's why I'm sitting next to her right now.
Cindy is 5th, and she simply asks, which juror would Danni remove if given the chance?
Definitely it would be Rafe, because I know for sure he's voting for Stephanie because they've had that bond since the very, very beginning.
And when Stephanie answers the same question, she blows it.
I don't know. If I had to take somebody off the jury, I guess it would be Bobby John because he was the first one that made the jury.
Rafe is the 6th juror, and he asks why Danni picked Stephanie over him for final tribal council, and Danni says because Stephanie gave her all during the final immunity challenge and she overcame great odds all game to get here. But really, it doesn't matter because Rafe is going to vote for Stephanie. Judd is the last juror, and he comes in hot with his insults against Stephanie and Danni. He says Danni is an expert ice skater with how she skates through this game. It kind of gives me some Brian Heidick flashbacks.
I think you're one of the best ice skaters I've ever seen because I believe your strategy was to just skate right through this damn game like you did.
Then he simply asks if she ever lied in this game, to which Danni admits she lied to Jamie before voting him out. It's probably smart to not mention how she got Judd out of the game, and Judd really lays into Stephanie 10 times harder than he does Danni, so she probably has his vote.
I wasn't lying at that point. I had no idea.
How is that a lie when evidently you're there and I'm here, so you lied?
I had no idea I was going to vote you out. It wasn't my idea.
For her closing words, Danni reiterates her underdog story and says Stephanie and Rafe is why everyone is on the jury and not her, though she had to bond with the enemy to overcome the odds.
And it was clear that Stephanie and Rafe are completely in control of the game, and they're the reason why each one of you guys are sitting up there right now.
We see only 2 people vote. One is Rafe, who votes for Stephanie, and the other is Judd, who...
I always kept my promises, you never did. I promise I ain't voting for you.
Then back in the States, many months later, Jeff reveals the final vote count live, and...
First vote. Danni. Steph. Danni, the winner of Survivor Guatemala.
Wow, that was Survivor Guatemala, and what a win for Danni. Thrown to the fire against returning players as a newbie is tough, but she pulled it off and bamboozled a Survivor legend in Stephanie LaGrossa. Her play wasn't flashy, but it was effective, and hey, a 6-1 win earning $1 million is nothing to sneeze at. Now, how does she do 15 years and 29 seasons later? Let's find out. 15 years, 29 seasons later, Danni Boatwright has returned to Survivor for the show's 40th season that consists of 20 winners, with the likes of Sandra Diaz-Twine, Tony Vlachos, Kim Spradlin, Boston Rob, and many others. This is not a cast to sneeze at. These are the big guns, and to beat them is going to require top-tier gameplay to succeed. Something important to note as well is that out of the 20 winners, 8 are from seasons 18 and before, whereas the other 12 winners originated from seasons 23 to 40. So the numbers are not in Danni's favor to begin with, but that hasn't stopped her before.
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor.
The premiere really kicks off with all the men arriving by boat and the women coming in on a separate boat. Danni once again is covered in the iconic colors of the Kansas City Chiefs, but strangely lacking the logos of the team this time. Her, Denise, and Amber do fall off the boat upon entry.
Welcome, ladies. How you doing? You guys hit the ocean yet?
Jeff Probst is clearly hyped up about what is happening here, or maybe it's just that he sees Boston Rob again, and is in complete awe of who has gathered for this historic season.
To Survivor, because a drink before war is always a good idea. Get rid of that.
We see the tribe split up not by gender, but seemingly at random. Danni ends up on the blue tribe, Soleil. What is rough is that there are only 4 old school winners and 6 new school winners on each tribe, and no one else here in the entire game is played on Guatemala. A few twists are added to this season as well. First is fire tokens, a new currency that can be used to buy things like tarps, food, and advantages in the game. And the other twist is the Edge of Extinction, which is an island you live at if you are voted out, where if you don't quit, you get 2 opportunities to re-enter the game via a challenge.
To that island right behind you, the isolated and unforgiving Edge of Extinction.
Right away, an immunity challenge takes place, but Danni doesn't participate in it, and her tribe loses. At camp, we see who knows who and what is what, and at this moment, Danni doesn't seem to be too well off, as she says she is disconnected from the Survivor community, doesn't really know anyone here, and seems to have no connections.
A lot of people that are very connected.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you all are. I'm not. I've been mom. I've been.
Talks are already in full heat about who to vote out. It is paranoia and madness. In a move that is unlike the Danni we saw in Guatemala, she suggests Boston Rob should go home to a few players, including Ben.
And I know we won't get very many opportunities to get rid of major targets like Rob. He's well liked. He's connected. And he knows how to play this game. So if you have the opportunity to remove that from your game, why would you not take it?
Now, Ben is completely enamored by Boston Rob this episode. I'm actually a bit surprised he doesn't just run out into the jungle and find Boston Rob an idol and bring it back to him and beg for forgiveness for something that he probably thought of. But the bigger point here is that he snitches on Danni, throwing out Boston Rob as a target.
Danni threw out my name? Why? What she said? Because you're Boston Rob.
Boston Rob approaches her, and while it might be day 1, he is in full Rob father mode. He clearly didn't need any time to warm up. He asks her if she really did what Ben claimed, and she says yes, but she says she tossed a bunch of people's names around, not just his. In a bit of a surprising turn, this works, and
I respect the fact that Danni told me the truth. Had she lied to me in the moment, I would know without a shadow of a doubt that I couldn't trust her.
Wow, that is very much unlike Boston Rob that we saw in past seasons. Either he's getting soft, or Danni is just that good. Either way, she dodged a bullet. Paranoia is still sweeping Soleil, and Danni tells us what she thinks about the first vote of any season.
I also think it's just something about that first person being voted out of the game, that you just don't want to be that person.
A lot has changed since Guatemala, as we are heading to tribal soon, and yet there is not a clear and definitive target yet. Everyone seems to be indecisive, which has to be frustrating to be a part of. Danni then says,
That's thinking Adam.
Okay. And we just decided, right?
No, we did not. What are we doing?
Yeah, Danni said Adam.
I have no idea what's going on here. Danni throwing out names seems very much unlike the Danni we saw in Guatemala, and both times it has happened this season, it feels like the wrong move at the moment, especially with the people she is talking to. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, as at Tribal Council, Natalie is voted out in a 7-2-1 vote where Danni votes for Natalie.
Natalie, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Now, this premiere episode is essentially a double episode, but Danni has nothing else going on except the fact that her tribe does win immunity. So we move on to episode 2, where they lose immunity. Now, you may be asking, how have we gone from a tribal to 2 separate immunity challenges and no mention of Danni? And the answer is that she has been almost irrelevant to any storyline so far. but that is about to change. But first, a dumb funny moment. Back at camp, Ben is dancing to some song in his head and Danni yawns like she has already seen this 100 times, and it's a bit funny.
He wants to seem harmless, but Ben is dangerous. And I don't trust him.
At this point, the old schoolers have made a secret alliance that consisting of Boston Rob, Parvati, Ethan, and Danni. But ever since she made that confession to Boston Rob, we haven't seen Danni be involved in any of their group talks. She really feels left out.
I'm not even sure about my old school alliance. I feel like it's me going home tonight. It's not hard to pick up on that when people are walking off and talking and nobody's including you on anything.
She then talks to Ethan and Ben, and man, there's really no other way to say this. Danni makes a massive mistake.
I know I'm kind of on the outs. The other day, he said, he wanted to stay old school strong, but it was a short conversation.
We had a plan at the very beginning. It was kind of an old school thing. Obviously, we need to keep it on the DL, but Danni, right in front of Ben, comes out with it. I don't really know what's going on with Danni. I think she feels like she's on the outside, and now she's telling Ben all of our secrets.
Ben then runs back and tells the new schoolers, hey guys, we gotta get rid of Danni. Also, the old schoolers are in an alliance. She threw them under the bus. Danni then talks to Boston Rob and tries explaining that she feels like a target. He says, okay, well, who do you want to vote out? And here comes massive mistake number 2.
I feel like Harvey completely slipped on me.
But to get who? Harv?
Well, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I mean, Danni, Parvati is my number 1. So Danni's hustling.
Danni got herself in hot water real quick. What we have seen already is her completely burning her old school alliance seemingly on accident. It would take her joining the new schoolers to save her hide and pray for a tribe swap soon. Because of what Danni said, Boston Rob says, let's just get rid of her now.
She's sketch, dude. Yeah, but I'm not trying to start no, apocalypse now. But I'm good to vote Danni.
Ethan then talks to Parvati and tells her what Danni had said about wanting to target her, and Parvati is straight up confused. At Tribal Council, Danni is voted out unanimously in an 8-1 vote.
Danni, the tribe has spoken.
Here is where the video would normally come to a conclusion, except this is not a normal season, and therefore this is not a normal video. The edge of extinction does exist, and Danni joins Natalie and Amber on it. It is a terrible place with a bad shelter and a small ration of rice that they have to climb up the mountain each day to get. There aren't even coconuts, and because of this, Danni tries her hand at spearfishing, and
We're trying to spearfish, and it was my first time ever spearfishing. I can't even begin to tell you how beautiful it was. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. I caught a little one! Look at this little sucker. I'm like a little kid, so excited to catch my first fish. Yay!
The edge of extinction is a dull place. There really isn't anything to do. That is until a note shows up that Ethan, the newest member of the voted out club, reads that essentially says you gotta climb this mountain 20 times, and every time you go up you gotta come back down with a log. If you bring all 20 of your logs down before sunset, you get 1 fire token. Danni seems to have this task in hand and makes an interesting comparison that I would not have thought of as a man.
It's like I try to compare it to childbirth, but like in childbirth you at least get a baby afterwards. Like here you get a fire token.
While it is not a race, Danni is not the last one to finish, but she does indeed finish. What is crazier is that Ethan nearly passes out doing the same challenge, and to be fair, he has beaten cancer twice, so his body is not really the same as everyone else here, but he perseveres, and for the final leg, all the women join him, and he is really touched.
After seeing how much Ethan struggled and still pick himself up, it was inspiring. It was incredible.
They all went with me to finish the last leg, which was pretty touching.
Pretty much nothing of note happens in episodes 5, 6, or 7, except every single old school winner has been voted out, and Sandra even raised the flag on the edge and quit. But now in episode 8, it is their chance to re-enter the game.
This is the moment we've been waiting for. The battle to get back in the game. We get this little scroll that gives us the layout of how to spend fire tokens.
Now with Danni's 1 fire token, she buys an advantage in the challenge that a few other players have as well. While she never leads the pack, she is right there with everyone else, but it doesn't seem like she can quite nail the touch and precision required to move the ball up the snake and win the challenge. So, who does win the challenge?
It's coming for you.
But it is not over. She will of course get a second chance to enter the game in the final episode. but she does get to join the jury no matter what. In the very next episode, we see her doing yoga with Parvati and Natalie, and once again, a note arrives on the edge with a task for them to do. It says, specifically, as a winner and a fan, you step back and assess. Sometimes when history repeats, it can lead to success. Long story short, no one knows what this means, except when Danni and Parvati get together and they go searching and
History repeats itself. Would it be something from the last time they had Edge of Extinction?
Oh, maybe. I got it.
Yes,
Okay, come over here.
Now, unfortunately, Parvati finds it before Danni and gets the fire tokens from this find, despite Danni really figuring out the clue. The next event to take place on the edge is a massive surprise for them and for us as an audience. Their families come to visit, and unlike in Guatemala where Danni really only cared about her dogs, here she breaks down and cries.
It's our family! What the hell? Oh my God! Oh my God!
After that touching moment, the next task given to the ever-growing population of Edge players is a bit familiar to the log challenge. This time you have to go around the entire island and collect 20 coconuts, one at a time. The first 6 players to complete this gets 2 fire tokens. That means 5 people will get nothing. Now, Danni is currently broke and needs this bad to buy some advantages for the final challenge. The race happens and eventually there is only 1 spot left, with Wendell and Danni competing for it. Neck and neck, they race until...
You okay? Unfortunately, I started out way too slow and just couldn't gain enough ground, and I finished 7th.
It is now almost time for the final challenge, and Danni can't buy an advantage in the challenge where someone like Natalie gets 3. It's an unfairly sad sight to behold, as at that final challenge, Danni is such a non-factor that Jeff never even says her name once, and Natalie wins with the 3 advantages.
She's got it! Natalie has earned her way back into this game!
After the challenge, every voted out winner gets some final words, and here are Danni's.
Survivor really took me back to the basics when it comes to realizing what's really important in life.
And that is all for season 40, Winners at War. And what a turn downwards for Danni it was. She seemed to gain no traction in the game whatsoever, and for some reason played a reckless game of her being forward, unlike her successful run in Guatemala, where she kind of just let things come to her and she reacted as needed. Had she been more laid back and chill, like in Guatemala, while doing what she could do to join the majority, it seems like she would have outlasted her other old school winners, which would have gotten her to a tribe swap, and then who knows what would have happened. It is a shame her second run in Survivor was so lackluster, but on the bright side, it was cool to see someone from so long ago play again, catch some fish, and see a little character growth with her love for her family that isn't dogs. So what do you think of Danni's game? Comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching, and if you like the content you see here, then please consider supporting me and this channel on Patreon. Your financial support makes this channel possible, so thank you, and thank you for watching.